Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. As always, with me is my trusted counterpart, who is the smartest one of the bunch, Lauren. And today we are going to be talking purely Superman and Friends comic book origins with some comic book recommendations for Superman and things of that nature. Typically, we feature a beer of the week, go into what we've been reading, watching, some news. However, today it's purely related to Superman comic books to get you ready for, if you're going to the early release, that's going to be tomorrow, July 8th, to go see Superman, or maybe you're going this week and you want to read up a little bit about Guy Gardner, his wonderful haircut, Hawkman, HawkGirl, Mr. Terrific. This is your place for that, man. We got you covered. So like, subscribe, share, follow, drop a review, help the algorithm, help us grow. And, patreon.com/HopsGeekNews is where you can find us. I'm drinking today from the Vale in Richmond. It's White Miata. I don't know. I feel like this is like a bougie car. So in my mind, Superman's a bougie car. There's no correlation. It felt nice. I'm saving my tree houses. I might bring a couple tree houses with me for Lauren to share this week with Josh. So we'll see what happens. But Lauren, what'd you grab over there in your nice trailer park outfit?
This is the only shirt I could get last minute. Yeah. Okay, so my drink is probably even more of a stretch than yours. I have a Calusa Brewing
Isn't a Fantastic Four origin story, all right? We're not doing anything.
I hope there's some Fantastic Four beers before that comes out, because I have not found a single actual Superman beer. We've really been just like picking at the bottom of the
not even, what is it? Yeah, there really hasn't been at all.
So I have a double New England IPA from Calusa, which is a fantastic beer, my favorite style. It's called 0-0. I drank it on one of our Daredevil episodes because that can mean zero visibility. Do you have any idea why I might have picked this beer?
He's the first.
This is your clue. I'm holding up Krypto. Because Zero and Krypto are my two favorite fictional dogs.
Oh my God. Okay, you see, I was going to say because Superman is kind of like the first DC superhero, but then you held up Krypto and I was lost. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Got it in a Wonder Woman glass.
Oh man, that is okay. That is good. Yeah, no, we had stretches this week, guys. Like I said, this is going to be purely comic books. We're going to dive into some origin stories, if you will, give you some comic book backgrounds and, maybe some must reads on Superman, primarily of some comic books I think you should definitely read before you see, if you're like who's been diving into Superman lately. I've been really trying to become more educated because I've never cared about Superman for some reason. His character is never.
I love him.
Well, yeah, Carrie mentioned the other day, she was like, "What are you, a Superman fanboy now?" And I said, "No, I'm just," because she saw on HBO how I was watching all the movies and the shows, and we're watching Superman Lois, and I have all these comic books. And I said, "Well, no, I got to do research for the show, man." And the movie has me excited. It's been a while since the DC universe has had me excited for a movie. And
I think Smallville was a big turn for me.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved DC. It's my preferred publication. I just have never connected with Superman for one reason or another. But now I'm reading his story. So why don't you kind of dive us into this first aspect of Superman here, where he got the start, and we'll kind of go from there.
So he actually started as one of several anthology features in the National Periodic Publications comic book Actions #1, and this was June of 1938. So think about the world in 1938.
World War II was just kicking off, and
we got Great Depression going on. I mean, it's just insane to think. It's like women had barely gotten the right to vote. Like Prohibition was like
kids were still working factories, man.
Had ended. Like it's insane to think everything that was going on. So this makes him 87 years old. It was so popular that National launched Superman into his own self-titled comic book. This was a first at the time. This was not the norm. It hit stands the following summer. So by the early 40s, millions of copies of Superman were selling each month. In 1958, Superman became the first DC comic to get its own letters column.
Oh, interesting. It's really interesting because when you kind of look back at the 1930s, right? How many things had a radio show, for example, which is kind of crazy. And so it's kind of crazy. Just where all these things start from.
Ovaltine. So Clark Kent, aka Superman, aka Kal-El, was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Kal-El.
Written by Siegel and drawn by Shuster. Before the Superman we know, they actually created others, and not all of them were good guys. However, the do-gooder alien boy from Kansas is what stuck. The two were big sci-fi fans and credit many different influences from sci-fi stories they enjoyed. Jack Williamson, who is referred to as the quote dean of science fiction, end quote, once said that Superman's origin was similar to a story he had written and published early on, where a Martian scientist sent his infant daughter into space to save her from their planet's destruction. So they
Interesting.
might have pulled a lot of inspiration.
Yeah, just a little bit, right? In the early days, continuity did not seem to matter hardly at all, as it should. It's the 30s, it's the 40s. So there are some contradicting stories that have, of course, been many events that reset his origin, such as Crisis, Rebirth. There are many mini runs that we'll kind of talk about too. There's one in particular, I believe, by Jeff Johns that kind of resets his origin story as well. However, if you have seen any Superman movie or show, you know the gist of his origin, right? Krypton explodes. They send baby Kal-El to Earth. Jor-El and Lara send him to Earth there to be raised. They crash land in Kansas. Martha and Jonathan. Not
Not
always their
always,
names.
but it's been
Interesting.
official for a while now. Because it wasn't
Martha.
in the 50s TV show. That was not their names. I forget what it
Do
was. We
you?
talked
Oh, I
about
was
that a
gonna say I
couple
don't
episodes
remember.
ago.
Yeah. However, at first he was sent to an orphanage. Whoa. This was in the 1938 version. So, think orphanages now and how broken the system is, and then think 1938
Well, back then,
orphanages.
didn't they
And,
sing "It's a Hard Knock Life" for
well,
us?
have you ever seen the movie Brightburn?
I haven't, because I've gotten so many mixed reviews. I'm like, I maybe should
Wasn't
just stay
bad.
away from it.
No,
I've
it's
heard
worth a
it was
watch.
terrifying
Well, think
and
Superman
disturbing.
being sent to a 1938 orphanage, and you can see how Brightburn
I mean, people were
that
selling
version.
their kids back then. I almost feel like an orphanage would be like a step up from what was going on
I
during
don't,
the
I don't, I
Depression.
don't picture just because modern day the foster care system now and orphanages now are such a broken
Shit, no.
system that I can't figure that 1938 would be anywhere near better. But
No, absolutely not.
that's just thinking. It made me think Brightburn and
But
Superman
good
probably
news.
wouldn't have turned out good. However, there was good news. There was. Interesting. Then the 1938, or when it was picked up by DC Comics, the origin was elaborated a little bit more. The Kents found him, dropped him at the orphanage, and then they felt bad, so they come back for him. In these early versions, it was said that he was so powerful because he had been his rays had been
He was
around
raised
for.
around for for some like had evolved.
Sorry, I've had a beer and a sip, and Lauren's writings have me confused.
He was raised to physical perfection, basically. So he'd evolved to
He's
physical
corn
perfection.
fed. Yeah,
So we're always taught that the rays of the sun made him so
yes.
powerful. And that's what
Yes.
it's kind of been told. However, originally the Kryptonians had been around for so long and they were such an evolved society that they had evolved to physical perfection. And I think you see that a bit in Man of Steel, where these children are being born. It's like why am I blanking on that? A new Brave New World books or whatever, where like people were created for a purpose. So they were perfectly groomed for that. So
Right.
that was what they were kind of thinking back then. Now we're like, oh, he gets it from the
Oh.
sun. But you did again. You saw that in Man of Steel, but he was the first natural birth after centuries. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. As Clark's powers actually begin to develop, his parents help him cope with it, and his powers are kept a secret. Clark grows up and adopts the goofy, less confident version known as Clark Kent, who dons the glasses and works at the Daily Planet in Metropolis because that's just what we do, right? Now, another origin story was told in 1961 in Superman issue 146. More info was given, including Jor-El warning his brother Zor-El, who is Supergirl's dad. It also includes Krypto's launch into space. Side note, Krypto, the first dog, the last dog of Krypton, issue 1 released a couple weeks ago. That covers this, and it's really good. It's
that's
really
cool.
really good. I definitely recommend picking that up. Now, in the late 70s, the lack of inconsistent continuity was being noticed, so things were brought a bit back on track. In this decade, Clark goes to college, becomes Superboy. Today, Superboy is known as the son of Clark Kent. However, the name first showed up as a prelude to Superman.
In fact, I even found a comic book where Superman fights Superboy. What? Even though they're the same person.
What?
There was some mind melding and
What?
yeah, Pete Ross had a time machine and a thing to swap minds. He went back in time, got Superboy, who was Clark Kent, switched minds with him, and then attacked Clark because he was mad because he did something with his son. But his son was
Interesting.
gonna go to space and help people. But Pete was done dirty in Smallville, I feel like, but that's a whole story.
Again, I have to, maybe I'll get to that one eventually. I never fully actually watched it. Now, why don't you take us into the 80s where things get crazy with Crisis on Infinite Earths?
The 80s, this is when I showed up. So in the 80s, there was Crisis on Infinite Earths, which let the writers make everything consistent by basically starting over.
Of course, we love a good swipe clean.
Good flashpoint. During this decade, the Man of Steel run hit stands and showed Kryptonians as more cold and logical and thereby lacking empathy in many ways. We see this again in Cavill's Man. As he was the first, okay, so we saw this in Man of Steel as he was the first natural birth in years, and to his parents, he was a chance of hope as opposed to being created for a specific
That's
purpose.
what the S means, duh.
It's not an S.
It means, on my planet, it means hope.
Then in the 90s, which were a crazy time, when Superman is killed by Doomsday, Martha and Jonathan, who's still alive,
why did you say that?
Are very sad. Why did I say Jonathan? Because the very
common name. Why did you say Martha? I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I just should.
Oh, I knew where you were going.
I'm muting. Goodbye.
At the turn of the century, the Birthright comic then came out, and comics followed media. This is when Clark's origin actually included Lex being part of his childhood, as well as a friend, which was taken from Smallville.
Okay, see, that's kind of cool. How do you feel about Lex being known kind of as a friend to Superman?
I actually love that. And again, I've always enjoyed Superman. Whereas, I grew up watching Lois and Clark, and we always watch the Superman movies. Superman's a household name. Same with Batman. I've always leaned more towards DC because that was the first time I really dove into the fandom and, getting, surrounded by it, loving it, whatnot. Now I feel like I'm getting more into DC, but it was really cool because one of the things I absolutely loved about Smallville is that Clark and Lex are friends, but Lex's dad is evil. So Lionel is evil. And Lex does not like his dad because he sees that he's evil. But one of the very interesting things in Smallville is that Jonathan Kent is mean to Lex. And his actions toward Lex almost push him on that supervillain.
I kind of like that a lot. It's like Lena Luthor and how there's some iterations she's kind of a friend to Kara. I like that too.
The two of them being friends. I didn't finish Supergirl, but I loved that in the show.
I didn't finish, but I really like that because there's something, it almost makes it feel more personal between the two, right? Mm-hmm. Friends got there. As somebody who has lost friends, especially due to the political climate, there's harder things out there than your worst enemy on earth. Or there's trying to explain it in a way that having your worst enemy on the planet, your nemesis, being an ex-friend makes it that much more powerful is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. And even added to the fact that, it makes a little more sense why Lex hates Superman so much, because I never really vibed with why he hates him to the degree that he hates him, because it has always really felt personal to me. And it's like, okay, so Lex thinks this guy who has all this power doesn't deserve it, and he's going to ruin, blah, blah, blah. It's never felt that personal to me, but being friends would add that layer of personality to it.
Well, and Lex was always envious of Clark's relationship with his dad.
Yeah.
And he would do good, and Martha would see him do good. And then Jonathan would be like, well, he's still his father's son kind of thing. It's like, mother,
right.
Are you kidding me? You're raising an alien.
Toxic masculinity.
Come on. It was very interesting because outside of the scenes with Lex, Jonathan was a great dad, a great person.
Yeah.
It is, it is a good show. It's very cheesy at times. I mean, it's CW. It was 2001.
Well, right. I mean, early CW. That's why I'm still blown away by Superman and Lois at how good it is, because it's not CW. It's CW, but it's not CW at all. It's so good.
It is so good. I'm glad you're watching it.
Damn.
Bunnytail Designs Co. is out of this galaxy, with bags for any and every occasion you just may need. Maximum effort was put into every bag, and there's koozies too. Whether you're raising muggles or wizards, these are the bags for you. Or hunting demons, or running from demigorgons, or traveling the galaxy. So get a bag and peep that fit. Great for kids too. Cheers.
All right, where were we? So in 2009, Superman Secret Origin was a 6-issue run by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, both part of Ghost Machine at Image Comics. This miniseries changed some origin after Crisis. The origin started with Clark's first memory, so not on Krypton, which is kind of cool because it's just from his perspective. Sadly, one of his first memories is breaking his friend Pete's arm. He also learns he can fly while saving Lana during a tornado. This is actually straight
damn tornadoes.
This is straight out of Smallville. In 2009, that had to come after that scene. So despite the fact that Tom Welling never actually flew in the show, he did in this scene when he was saving Lana. And he kind of just chalked it up to, the tornado lifted him up or whatever.
Right.
His other powers kick in here too. He begins wearing glasses as a kid, which I think is smart on his parents.
Yeah.
And Lex discovers or finds the kryptonite. Clark ends up stopping a rocket that's heading towards their house, which reveals that Krypto is inside. I love that.
Yeah. Now, Clark is out as Superman when he rescues the falling Lois. She loves falling. The public opinion is all over the place.
Falling in love with Clark.
I was about to say she falls so much so that she fell in love with Clark and Superman. Public opinion's all over the place. Lex then announces that he's not even human. Sam Lane tricks Superman to get info out of him about what he intends to do with Earth and Lois. What's your intentions with my daughter? Clark ends up fighting Metallo, who has some kryptonite in him thanks to Lex, and at the end of the day, it's a happy ending with Superman and Lois bonding. In 2011, the New 52, which another highly debatable, people don't really like New 52, it hit stands after Flashpoint. Love Flashpoint. So another opportunity to go back in time and change things. In this, Jor-El and Lara send Kal-El away in a prototype rocket, guided by Brainiac and his artificial intelligence, to find planets with younger suns and weaker gravity. It was a desperate last-minute attempt to save him. Jonathan and Martha find and care for him. However, they die when he is young in a car accident. Years later, in DC Rebirth, he became Superboy and then saved them. So, yeah, before we go into fun facts and comic highlights real quick, I do want to give you some comic book recommendations that actually goes into this whole thing. So this is a lot of this, per DC fandom itself, there's some highlights of issue 1s that you might want to pick up or look into. We got Action Comics #1. Superman is the champion of the oppressed. Superman #1, Clark Kent gets a job. Superman issue 4 is the first Lex Luthor story.
Berenstein Bears are like that kind of title.
Right? Superman issue 7 is Perry White's first appearance. Superman issue 13 is Jimmy Olsen's first appearance. Superman #30, first Mr. Mxyzptlk story. Action Comics 64 is the first Toyman story. More Fun Comics 101 is the first Superboy story. That's when they accidentally altered Superman's origin. Superman issue 65, Superman meets surviving Kryptonian criminals for the first time. Superman 76, this is when Superman and Batman learn each other's identities. Love this. And Action Comics 158, it's Superman's origins finally are set, and it's his canonical origin from 51 to 86. All right. So now we go into All-Star Superman, which I recently read. It is by Grant Morrison. Right here is the writer, and Frank Quitely. It's pretty thick. And basically in this, Lex tricks Superman into saving Project from the sun. They go in and they get into some trouble. However, the sun overloads his cells to basically give him cancer, where his white blood cells attack themselves. And so Superman's dying. And Lex is put on death row because he gets caught.
Disease.
For Superman, yeah. And so Superman gets put on death row. He doesn't know Clark Kent's Superman. So Clark gets an exclusive 3 weeks before Lex gets put on death row. And there's some cool things in this where, Superman knows he's dying. So he goes to Lois Lane, confesses who he is. He says, Lois, he's Clark. He's like, Lois, I have something to tell you. She doesn't believe that he's Clark. Nobody believes that he's Clark. she thinks Clark is too dumb. So where's the real Clark? Why are you messing with me? This is all a joke. And he's showing her his entire cave of all these relics and things that could kill him and stuff. He's like, no, it's really me. Like I'm Superman, Clark. We're the same. And but she loves him. He gives her 24 basically a potion that gives her Superman powers for 24 hours. And so there's a sequence where there's these two people that fight for Lois's love, and Superman basically has these 12 tasks. At the end of the 12 tasks, he's going to die. It's very good, very very good. It's not very a long read. It took me about an hour to read the whole thing. Which, by the way, these compendiums that are $10 are a genius. I've been buying so many of them, and
they look pretty on the bookshelf too.
They do. They really do. And at the end, Superman's dead. And I don't know much more than that because I didn't think Superman died other than Death of Superman. So that's where I'm at. There's some really good things in there. It goes through. It's very emotional, and it's basically Superman coming to terms with death and him and Lex coming to a head. It's, if I had to describe it in Batman or The Dark Knight Returns, how there's one last face off between Joker and Batman. That's kind of what you get in this story with Lex and Superman to a different degree, but it feels the same. So that one's a must read. And then we have The Death of Superman, which is Dan Jurgens who wrote it, October of 92 to October of 93, ran for a year. This was actually the thing that like the first real Superman story I sat down and really got into and read. It's an animated movie. It's really good. What were you going to say? You were going to say something.
No, I read this recently, like this week, and like
Good.
even just the actual issue here where he dies, it's so good,
powerful. And I know they depict it in Superman and Lois. I know I know they get Doomsday and stuff. I do know that. Yeah. Now, originally the storyline was meant to be the wedding of Clark Kent and Lois Lane. However, production of the TV series Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman had started, and Warner Brothers requested that the comic do the wedding whenever the series did it. Oh, that's so cool. The white cover, the wedding. Yes. I have not seen that ever Superman, on shelf.
So this is one of the comics Josh actually got me from that garage sale.
What?
So that stack
wow.
That stack I sent you, some of those were Josh and his brothers growing up. And Josh even told me, he's like, oh yeah, I remember buying that one comic. I'm like, wait, you read this? And he's like, no, I just thought it was going to be valuable. So I bought it. But a bunch of those comics, when I got the one from the garage sale, though, a bunch of them were Superman. So I have the whole stack in chronological order, and I'm just going through it. So I packed.
Wait, you have the whole Death of Superman in chronological order?
I think I have the whole death. I have a compendium that I actually already packed in my bag.
I have I have the trade.
The death, and it covers a few other things too. So it's all out of order. I'm just saying all that stack that I sent you of those, all the comics, I have those in chronological release order. Dude, and I'm just going through.
I've never seen that that one that you just.
I can bring it with me. That's very pretty. Yeah.
It's just if you're not watching on YouTube, it's the wedding album of Superman. It's a blank white cover with this. I've never seen that actually.
Inside is still, it's all colored and
wow.
And then the last page is really cool because it opens up. So you see like Clark and
Lois. It's one of those fold outs.
But then you open it and you see Superman and Lois.
Oh my God, that's so okay. That is freaking dope.
It is really
that's
pretty.
Cool.
And it's like textured too. It feels really good.
That leads me back to the frustrated creators who were forced back to the drawing board to come up with a whole new storyline. And actually one creator jokingly said, just kill him. And so they decided to go with that. And it's kind of funny actually. The issues,
kill him.
If you want to collect these issues that happened over the year, Superman, Man of Steel, number 18, Justice League America 69, Superman Volume 2, number 74, Adventures of Superman 497, Action Comics 684, Superman The Man of Steel number 19, Superman Volume 2, 75, and there was some like Justice League of America and Green Lantern in there as well. Now, you also have the current run out right now, which is Absolute Superman by Jason Aaron, Unlike the traditional Superman, who absorbs solar energy from his powers or for his powers, Absolute Superman's abilities are connected to his battle suit, which requires external solar energy for charging and regulation. There's a lot of other stuff. I'm a couple issues behind on this.
Wow, so but it's really like Absolute Batman, they're making him poor. They're like taking what makes
Essentially,
them
yes.
specifically special and throwing them on their heads.
Basically, yeah. And there's a lot of I know in issue 1 there is like people, the real world issues, you know how there's immigration camps kind of. There's a lot of peacemaker type bodyguards guarding these camps that he fights with, you know, for there. And Lois Lane's origin is different as well in this, but Kal-El in this universe does not have the Kent family that raised him on a farm. Instead, he enjoys a childhood with his biological parents on Krypton, who teach him to fight for the underprivileged. Yeah.
Interesting.
Very, very good.
Wow, they're just I feel like these should almost be like what if stories. These
this is their new All In and Absolute. It's really good because these are,
but
they've
flipping
gone
everything
away.
on its head. I mean, it is what if. It's like what if
Essentially,
Yondu picked up T'Challa instead of Pete? Like that's what's happening. It's like what if Batman grew up poor?
And it keeps it fresh. I really like this. These fresh ideas they're coming up with. Honestly, I'm loving the Absolute runs. You know, all of them. Batman. Yeah. I mean, Flash, Aquaman. All really good. Really good. It
goes big into, I feel like, nature versus nurture.
Yeah. Huh. Realistically, yeah. We have Superman's Secret Origin, which is Jeff Johns' 6-issue run. It's from the perspective of Clark Kent, and it's his story of self-discovery, which we kind of talked about. Now, Superman Birthrights by Mark Waid. It was originally not canon, and then it was made to replace Superman Man of Steel as the new canon. And so it replaced that Man of Steel, like I talked about earlier. It goes over 12 issues. So there's a 12-issue run that makes his canon newer. We have Superman All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, where it looks at Superman's early years through the eyes of those who are close to him. And then last but not least, the Superman Kryptonite. It's by Darwin Cook and Tim Sale, and it's about his first run-in with Kryptonite. So those are some of your must-read Superman stories.
It's interesting, the whole canon thing with comics, because to me, I feel like in comics, everything is canon.
Well, Marvel never resets their timelines, whereas DC always does timeline resets, which is interesting.
Right. Marvel's just like, okay, we're recognizing this as canon to this specific story.
Right.
But even like in the MCU, what they're doing now is they've essentially made everything canon, which DC did the same thing in Crisis, because in Crisis, they referenced Doom Patrol, they referenced Adam West's Batman, they referenced all of it. It's just
that's true.
But it's true. Like, I feel like the only thing where canon is really relevant is Star Wars. Like, just tell me if this is because it's one.
Essentially, yeah. You're right there, actually. Why don't you take us into the fun facts, though, about and some more comic highlights of Superman?
So this is specific to Superman before we go into some of his friends. So the explosion on Krypton, as Kal-El was leaving, actually created kryptonite, which is only harmful to superpowered Kryptonians, as we saw in Crisis on CW. So it wasn't until Superman 61 in 1949 that Clark actually learned of his alien origination.
Wow, that is a long time between his release in 38, you know, and then 11 years. Wow.
We knew, but yeah, it took him a while. Yeah, so that is interesting to think that there was such a long time where it's like, I mean, what was he thinking was happening? Like, what's happening to my body?
Who am I? Is this puberty?
It affects everyone differently, Clark. So Schuster and Siegel actually sold the rights to Superman for $130, which led to many lawsuits throughout the years, even after their deaths, which you actually touched on when we were talking about Man of Steel. So while they were in the same comic book in 1941, it actually wasn't until Superman number 76 in 1952 that Superman and Batman first meet. And it's because they were randomly put in the same room on a cruise because the ship had overbooked. Because I'm sure billionaire Bruce Wayne would have ended up in some random room with some random dude because the
just random. The whole thing is random.
So when a tanker explodes outside, they both want to change into their costumes. Fortunately, though, a light through the porthole reveals their true identities.
Wait a second, you are, and you are?
It's like a parent trap thing. So they agree to team up and keep each other's secrets secret. However, their radio counterparts... Their radio counterparts actually met 7 years before that. Because like you said before...
it's not canon anymore, sorry.
Yes, there was radio stories. What was it, War of the Worlds, when they thought like aliens were actually invading and it was just a story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did the initial War of the Worlds radio story, and
Yeah.
people literally thought it was real, and then it wasn't though. Like, that's crazy.
It is crazy. Okay, so during World War II, the US government stopped Superman Comics from publishing a comic where Lex had launched an atomic bomb. This was during the ongoing Manhattan Project, which created the atomic bomb and was confidential at the time.
The damn Russians stole our
Clark
technology.
once dated a mermaid in college named Lori Lamaris because Clark only dates women who have LL initials. He also dated Lila Laryl. She was an
What's
actress
Lana's
on
last name?
Krypton. Lang.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Lana
I knew that.
Lang.
Wow, he really does.
He
He has a
really
type.
does. He has a type. It comes down to
I mean, I would
initials.
have gone for the goth
That seems
baddies,
like
but
some
LL works
weird
just as well, I
kink.
guess.
So he actually dated Lila, who was an
Okay,
actress on
time out.
Krypton, when
Can I
time
interject real
traveling
quick?
and visiting the planet before it was destroyed. Yes.
LL makes me think of something very stupid, and this has nothing to do with
Oh,
Superman.
okay.
I was an idiot child when I was a boy. My friends and I thought we were so cool because we lived on Liberty Lane that we started a gang called the LL Gang. And we broke into garages and we used to tag the local skate park with double L. You're
Wow.
welcome.
Were you just trying to
cool.
attract Superman?
Or other women with LL initials. Who knows?
I mean, it's better than killing your dad with a hammer.
Oh, God.
Like some people did when they were a boy.
When I was a boy.
Okay, so my last fun fact about Superman before we go into the other characters. This is a direct quote from Screen Rant because I was going to try to summarize it and I'm just going to direct quote it. So, quote, after the Second World War had ended, the Ku Klux Klan was undergoing a revival. They grew more and more violent and audacious with their actions. This did not sit well with activist Stenson Kennedy, and he resolved to fight against them. He decided to join the Klan in order to learn all of their secrets and operations. Once the information was gathered, he learned that the police were not willing to help him in bringing down the Klan. Looking for some way to hit the Klan hard by exposing them, he turned to the makers of the Superman radio show. He hoped that they would be willing to adapt a story in which Superman would battle against the Klan while simultaneously exposing all of their real world lingo and secrets. The makers of the radio show thought it was a great idea and thus created a 16-part storyline aptly titled, quote, Clan of the Fiery Cross, end quote. The story was effective in demytholizing the KKK and harming their recruitment efforts. So that's really cool.
That's cool. Number one, I think we need to bring that back about now for the amount of, because first of all, fuck ICE and all you Nazi punk ass bitches out there. I know this, we try not to cuss, but this felt warranted. All right. And we need to get back to some of that, okay? Because there's so many people out there playing dress up and putting on these masks where all convenient, you can breathe, you fat ass, all of a sudden. That we should probably use Superman, truth, justice, in the American way. That means demeaning people like the KKK and beating their asses. I'm just saying. I'm off my soapbox. Apologies.
We shouldn't have to
remind not apologies. No, not apologies. Because if you sit here and you back any Nazis or what's going, fuck you. First of all,
well, and if you're listening to us and you're surprised that we feel that way,
you clearly
you're not
must
getting the story of the comics and whatnot that we're listening and
you can't like comic book superheroes.
Not listening. We don't listen to radio shows anymore.
Nazi, like no, you don't. I'm gonna gatekeep. You can't be a fan of this stuff and enjoy. No.
I mean, you can. You're just missing the point.
And you're stupid and you're a piece of trash. But let's go into Lois Lane, who first appeared as Superman, or who first appeared as
Superman.
God bless. I'm sorry. First appeared same as Superman in Action Comics issue 1, 1938. She's the only other character other than Superman that has been around since the very beginning. She might as well be Superman. Some of the things that she does. She's a badass woman and probably the most badass non-superpowered woman in all of comic book mediums, because Wonder Woman's obviously really good too, right? That'd be very interesting to do one day. She was drawn based on a model, Joanne Carter. Jerry Siegel ended up
superpowered.
That's true. Riri's not superpowered. She's super genius. Right. Shuri's not. Well, I guess Shuri is now, but you know, Jerry
Okay.
Siegel ended up marrying Joanne Carter, who was the model based off, and eventually Lois got the middle name Joanne as a nod. Lois's original origin was a girl raised on a farm. Interesting. Crisis turned her into the army brat that we've met in recent shows and movies. From 1958 to 1974, Lois had a comic book called Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane. She's so much more than that, though. The run followed her solo adventures, but it still showcased Superman and had some Lana Lang appearances. This run also took on some social justice issues. There was a controversial story, I Am Curious, Black, number 106, November of 1970. Lois uses a machine that allows her to experience racism firsthand as an African American woman. See, this makes me fall more in love with Superman because they really tackle these issues.
Yeah.
And I think comic books should be doing more of that right now for this younger generation of people.
I think they're doing it more subtle these days.
They are. Well, for example, I mean, Punisher's they have Punisher coming back in comic books and he has his original logo again, which is kind of them taking back the logo from those trash heaps that are out there doing stupid stuff.
But I think what some of the difference is, you know, if a comic book did something edgy in the 70s, it was all word of mouth. And you were hearing it through mostly children that were reading the comics. Now you have children, you have adult comics, and if something is over the edge, it's blasted on social media. And like everybody can see it, even people who don't read. So I feel like they have to be more careful and subtle, but subtlety only gets you so far.
Right. I mean, listen, you see it with like media literacy anymore that you have to just be point blank and honest because people can't read between lines sometimes, you know. And going back to Lois Lane, though, she has gotten powers on more than one occasion. And her and Clark actually have a kid named John after Clark's Earth dad. And Lois and Lana Lane, Clark's high school girlfriend, once became one person and called themselves Lana Lane.
Somebody, I don't know if it was Gibson or if it was Riley in our Discord was asking what Lana's last name was recently, and they had thought it was Lana Lane and thought she was related to Lois. And I assumed they were getting confused because Lois Lane is cousins with Chloe in Smallville.
Right.
But I wonder if this is
I actually really like Lois and Lana's, you know, kind of relationship and things like that in Superman and Lois right now as it develops.
I'm interested love their relationship in that. I also love Lana in that.
She's pretty good so far in that. And last but not least with Lois, after almost a century of being a reporter, as of 2023, Lois became an editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. She did, however, have times where she was a freelance journalist as she wanted to fight for social justice. Dude, I can't wait to see Rachel Brosnahan take it to Lois and show us what she's got. She's a fantastic
actress. I hope they give her a lot of screen time. I hope she's not just a supporting role.
I think she's gonna have plenty of screen time. It's Lois Lane. I think James Gunn gets it. I really do.
Good. I hope so.
So Lex Luthor.
Lex, I did not go deep into as I should have. He first appeared in Action Comics number 23 in 1940, created by Siegel and Schuster. At one point during a retcon, Lex and Supergirl actually dated. And he's not always bald.
As we saw, obviously, in that Batman v Superman.
Yes. And like we mentioned before as well, that they have redone him to where he was friends with Superman.
They have.
I honestly, there were so many characters. I like last minute was like, oh shit, I didn't mention Lex, and I know
I could have gone more into Lex, but I mean, Lex could be his own episode with Superman, which maybe we'll do. I will say there's a really good. A lot of people might have seen the meme, but in the Justice League show, the animated series, Lex switches bodies with Wally West. And he takes off his mask to find out who he is. And he takes off his mask as the Flash and he goes, I have no idea who this is. And it's one of the most hilarious moments of the show because he's so excited he's going to find out who these members of the Justice League are. He takes off his mask. I have no idea who this is. And it's so good. But Clancy Brown has played the voice of Lex Luthor a lot. We've gotten different iterations, of course. But yeah, we can obviously do
live action Lex too.
Yeah, I think that Nicholas Holtz can nail this one.
Shave that beautiful hair he still has.
Oh yeah. So Jimmy Olsen though, why don't you tell us a little bit about Jimmy Olsen?
So Jimmy Olsen, God bless him. So he first appeared as a named character in the story Superman versus the Archer and Superman number 13 in 1941. He showed up unnamed and in Action Comics number 6. So it's like theories that he's in the background in Action Comics #6, but he's not official until Superman #13. He was again created by Siegel and Schuster and Bob Maxwell. His full name is James Bartholomew Olsen, which I find funny just that some of these names get reused because obviously that's the Flash's name is Bartholomew. You have Martha used twice and just, it's always funny. So Jimmy is consistently the lovable young Daily Planet photographer. However, the Supergirl version was less bow tie,
reminds me of
more
Archie
hot
for some reason in my
and
head.
Because he has the freckles. That makes sense 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's right. He was played by somebody totally different in the Supergirl show.
Yeah, it was a hot guy who was like an equal to Superman and not just fanboying over Superman.
Yes.
Although he did fanboy a little bit over Supergirl.
How could you not?
Fair. So he did have his own run too, though. Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, which did very well. He once turned into Turtle Boy. In the Superman family comic, he became a reporter with the nickname Mr. Action, and over the years, we've seen less bow tie. I still think, though, it should come back as bow ties are cool.
Bring the bow tie back, man. Bow ties will never go out of style. I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of bow ties.
In the few random comics I have read in the past week with Jimmy Olsen, for one, I'm shocked he wasn't in Cavill's one because he's very important.
He's a photographer.
He ends up becoming, though, like a big time news reporter guy too. Mm-hmm. He is not so much of a dweeb as I feel like he is portrayed in media.
I would definitely agree. Would absolutely agree on that.
And I really hope again that he gets his time to shine. The actor, though, I felt like that has been cast because we both know him from Santa Clarita Diet. Not to to bring up drama, but
not to bring up old stuff. But
I hope he does a good job of being that still fanboy, but also
I think he will
being his own personal badass.
Yeah. Well, because if you see it in a lot of these animated movies or comic books, Jimmy is always in the action with Lois because he's following Lois as the camera guy, right? He's always Lois's kind of right-hand man.
And he's down to do it. He's not scared. He's ready to go too.
He doesn't shy away at all. He is with Lois. He's in the shit. He is constantly always there. And so I want to see that. It is a very big unfortunate that you've never got a proper live action portrayal of Jimmy Olsen in that regard, such as Superman Returns or Man of Steel, things like that.
I think they did a good job in Smallville. But it was just very confusing because they cast an Ashmore twin when the other twin was evil.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
But I mean, I really liked the Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl, but we didn't meet him with Superman. We met him totally separate, and he was too cool to be Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, right. You are 100% right.
In the middle, I don't know.
You need someone. I mean, again, I always think of Archie, but I am excited to see what he does. Now let's go to Guy Gardner, our famous bowl-cutted a-hole idiot Green Lantern, who first appeared in Green Lantern number 59 by John Broome and Gil Kane. Fun fact: I know a John Broome in real life, but he's not this John Broome. Now, straight from the DC page itself, hot-headed, unruly, and prone to breaking the rules, Guy Gardner isn't always the most likable hero, but he has proven time and time again to be a worthy Green Lantern. If Guy Gardner had just been a few miles closer to a dying alien named Avon Sur, he and not test pilot Hal Jordan would have become the first human being to join the Green Lantern Corps, the group of intergalactic heroes guided by the Guardians of the Universe on the planet Oa. Eventually, however, Guy becomes a Green Lantern himself, quickly earning a reputation as a rebel without a cause who doesn't know when to shut up. It kind of sounds like me. That's unfortunate. I run my mouth too much. Now, whenever evil needs to be fought or lives are threatened, Guy is there to help. Don't expect him to be nice about it. He has skills such as hard light constructs, instant weaponry, force fields, flight, durability, alien technology, skilled fighter, and Nathan Fillion will be playing him. He's got the bowl cut. He's definitely misogynistic in a lot of his comic book runs too.
But I feel like we're seeing a bowl cut Nathan Fillion portraying the Green Lantern.
We're getting comic accurate.
But he's gonna so freaking win people over so much faster than sexy Ryan Reynolds, Hal Jordan. And I just think that is hilarious.
You know what's hilarious too is there are people when the first trailer. That's true.
Green.
Well, he's got the jacket.
Won't be animated.
He's got the leather white coats. And he's got the white and black. But what's funny is when the trailer first dropped, there were people who were, "What's with that haircut? Why does he have that hair?" Blah blah blah. Guys, it's
Well,
from the
okay.
comics. Okay, come on.
They did
I'm
push it a
loving that it's
little,
awful.
but in the comics, it's not as bullish. Let's
Depends on the run, I guess.
maybe. I guess the runs I've seen, it doesn't look great. I mean, he needs a new
Oh, he has an
barber.
awful haircut, but so does some people in modern day. So,
But it doesn't look like it was 1987 and his mom literally put a bowl on his head.
hey,
Which
come
is
on,
what it
chill.
looks
We all
like
had.
in this.
I had a bowl cut growing up. Okay, I really did.
So did my
Oh god.
husband.
No, I would love for Josh and I to compare bowl cuts.
Oh, we can show you pictures. My mother-in-law had the Flowbee. Do you know what the Flowbee is?
What is the Flowbee?
Where it sucks your hair and cuts it. So I thought that was fictional from Wayne's World. I did not know
What?
it was
That's
real.
a real thing?
It's a real thing. And my mother-in-law used it on all 3 of her sons and offered to give it to me for mine. And I said, I thought that was a joke.
For poor Logan. Oh no.
I would never do that to Logan.
Do that. Well, that would be a great way to do.
I mean, dude, his head got shaved a lot, especially during COVID, and that wasn't great.
That's
But
hilarious.
I would not do.
Oh
I
my
would not do
god,
that.
that's hilarious. Oh god. Let's go into Angela, the engineer, whose first appearance was in Authority number 1 in 1999. She was created by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. We know Brian Hitch.
Hey.
However, in the Wildstorm continuity, Angela Spica first appeared in the Wildstorm number 1. She's a medical engineer, has a suit that she keeps inside her body, which is not the best as it causes some health issues. However, the suit gives her flight using an electrogravitic engine system, stealth capability,
Whatever that
wrist
is.
mounted ray, able to cut through concrete for easy ingress or egress, scanning equipment, can aid rescue missions with medical scanners, which allows her to view internal organs. Said scanners can also be used to copy items from her nanotechnology. Life support, sufficient to protect the occupant during an underwater swim from Long Island to Rhode Island. And holographic interface, and she is a good guy.
This one's interesting because when I was reading about her, because I don't know her at all.
Yeah. Honestly, this is one of the ones I don't know at all.
But I guess like her suit being inside of her causes like internal bleeding and stuff. So I wonder. This is okay. So terrible. Obviously, I trust James Gunn. He brought us the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep. Great trilogy. All 3 movies were great. I mean, you know, really 2 wasn't as good as 1 and 3, but they were all fantastic. He brought these random characters that were not household names, and now they are 100% household names. You have a Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Disney World at Epcot.
You do, and it's so good.
It's the best ride ever. So I trust him, but this does seem like a lot of characters that don't have household origins to be thrown into a movie.
Yeah. No, you're kind of right there. That's fair.
So
which takes us to Kendra. So
right, which Kendra we know.
She's in a lot of stuff.
Angela, I feel like is really the only one we haven't seen in the mainstream. No.
Isabella Mercad, actually, she was just in Last of Us. She's in Last of Us.
No, I know that, but I'm saying the character, the fictional character. Angela is the only fictional character we don't know like really much about.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever
like HawkGirl's in HawkGirl and Mr. Terrific are both in the Arrowverse.
Yes, correct.
And Krypto's in that cartoon.
Dive into HawkGirl with us a little bit here.
All right, so this is Kendra Saunders' HawkGirl. Her first appearance was again in 1999 and the JSA Secret Files #1. She is a metahuman. She has immortality, reincarnation, and a very large knowledge of things that she has gained from memories of past lives. She's a skilled archaeologist, she's a detective, and she is very much so highly trained in hand-to-hand combat. And of course, she is a weapons expert. So she was actually granted her powers from the nth metal, NTH. She got her superhuman strength, durability, a healing factor, and she can fly. Originally, her abilities came from a harness and large wings that she can control. However, later portrayals instead granted her power through the metal, which later grafted with her physiology, granting her powers similar to Thangarian lifetime, whatever that means. So she's immortal through reincarnation, if that can be considered immortality. Because she can remember her past lives, she again knows a lot. Because think like if you could take all of this knowledge you've learned in your lifetime, remember it, and go to another and gain all that. Like that'd be really freaking cool. Well, and also probably really sad. So this knowledge makes her a trained archaeologist with an affinity for ancient Egyptian history and alien worlds. And so we did meet her in Flash and Legends. She actually dated Cisco. But I don't know if you remember, if you were still watching, she and Hawkman would find each other, and then they would they had
I do remember that.
This from they had like fallen in love, and then somebody else was in love with her and like cursed them.
They get like separated, but they always come back to each other.
Find each other, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, but yeah, we have Dora playing her.
That's right. She was Dora as well. And we have Michael Holt's Mr. Terrific, actually, who was created by John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake. This is actually the second iteration of Mr. Terrific, but his first appearance was in Spectre Volume 3, number 54 in June of 1997. And I kind of want to go in real quick. Created as part of DC's 2011 reboot of its continuity with the New 52, Mr. Terrific received a self-titled ongoing series written by Eric Wallace and Roger Robinson. And from there, Michael Holt is a child prodigy who demonstrates advanced intelligence at a young age, comprehending the works of physicists Niels Bohr, Albert Einstein, Max Planck, and Richard Feynman. Before becoming a superhero, Holt possesses 14 PhDs. Wow. And was holy crap.
Time for that.
What the heck, man? He was a self-made millionaire too. And aside from that, he was also an Olympic decathlete. Holt has been noted as the most intelligent member of the Justice Society of America and the third smartest person in the world. He contemplates suicide.
Him an Arrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He does contemplate suicide after the death of his wife, Paula, and unborn child in a car crash. His previous atheism is exacerbated by trauma, and he comes to not believe in souls or reincarnation. However, this is where the Spectre, aka Jim Corrigan, comes in, because it inspires him to become the superhero Mr. Terrific, inspired by Terry Sloan, where he joins the JSA. And you're seeing that right now in the Mr. Terrific Year 1. That's kind of what I talked about in our previous issue, where I would read issue number 2. So right now in the DC All-In series, there are 2 issues. Mr. Terrific Year 1 plays into that expertly. And he's got, a lot of things. So he's multiple fields, right? He's skilled in medicine, engineering, science, martial arts. His uniform and equipment were designed with a mask that doubles as a communication system and enables him to detect various forms of energy. And he has his T-spheres, which are remote controlled floating robotic spheres with multi-functions that include holographic projection, hacking into other machines, and generating energy bursts.
And he has a T on his face.
Yes. And he was in the Arrowverse. Curtis Holt,
I loved
who was friends with Facility. I do like that Mr. Terrific there.
Sweet. They took him. So it was played by Echo. Oh, damn it! I just lost it. But he was so sweet in the beginning, and him and Felicity were just friends. And so he was like the guy in the chair kind of thing. And then as the show developed, he became in the field. So I really feel like they 100%.
It's Echo Kellum who plays him in the Arrowverse. Yes,
you. I was literally
he's
reading
in the 4th
Echo
season when you get introduced.
He stuck around for a while.
Yeah, no, he does.
And I remember it was like an issue with him and his husband too, because obviously the husband didn't want him going out there, because that's a big thing too. Like when you're dating somebody or married to somebody who's a superhero, every time they go out, you never know if they're going to come home. But him and Felicity had such great chemistry, and he was so smart. And I didn't even realize until I was prepping for this that was Curtis. I did not put 2 and 2 together.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I
guess the CW Arrowverse is just kind of, I've forgotten
there.
So much. I've forgotten half of what I remember.
Very, very true. But
what I said didn't make sense, but you knew what I meant.
I know what you meant. And why don't you quickly take us through Krypto real quick, who's kind of our last big character before we kind of wrap things up here.
And this is the first time we're seeing Krypto in a movie that's not animated.
Yeah, Krypto has only been in basically animated or comic books right now.
Yeah. Which don't knock the superhero pets. It's a great movie.
He's been around for a while.
First appearance was in Adventure Comics number 210 in 1955. So he's been around
That's what I'm saying. He's been around since 55.
actually, in this Superboy or Superman versus Superboy comic, Krypto saves the day, man. When Superboy goes to the Kent farm, he's like, oh my gosh, because so Superboy is in the body of Pete, but he's in the future. And so he goes to the Kent farm and he's like, I'm sure I can find some of my old amazing tools to save the day. The only thing he can find that he thinks will save the day is Krypto's whistle. So he whistles for Krypto, and Krypto comes and saves
Which
the day.
reminds me of the trailer for this upcoming Superman film where he's David Cornsweet's laying in the snow. He whistles for Krypto, which is James Gunn's dog, and but the extended trailer is he's just jumping around like a puppy around him. It's the cutest thing ever, man. It's so cute.
Okay, so like I said, his first appearance in 1955. He had his own ship, which was knocked off course, so it took some time to get to Earth. By the time he gets
Why did
there,
they send so many single ships? My God.
Because they weren't preparing. It was last minute. It was an emergency.
I'm sorry.
So he gets there, and Kal-El is actually a teenager already called Superboy. He was created by Otto Binder and Kurt Swan. So because he is from Krypton, the sun gives him the same kind of powers. His name, when pretending to be a regular dog, is actually called Skip. Very original.
Oh.
Before Crisis, he actually died saving Superman's life by biting the neck of a bad Kryptonian, which irradiated him. There are many different versions of Krypto, including one where he was the product of testing Krypton genetics on Earth animals, which I thought that was actually really cool. So one of the things I wanted to say, as far as we were talking about this earlier, and it came back to me just talking about why'd you have so many ships sending. So one of the things I loved about Smallville, and I don't know if this happens in the comics, maybe as I'm going through my stack, I'll find this, because every time I see Jor-El and Lara send Kal-El to Earth, I'm like, you could be sentencing your baby to a worse death. And I was going to say Vanessa. Lara even says that. If he doesn't find where he's going to, he's just, he's going to starve to death in space. He's going to die alone. Like, wouldn't it be better for a quick death in the arms of your mother as an infant?
I'd rather, at this point in life, I don't have superpowers. So just, God, end the Earth already.
So in Smallville, Jor-El, because he knew what might be coming, he scouted planets and found the Kent family. So he put the coordinates in. So it wasn't Jonathan. It was I believe it was Jonathan's parents. Or was it Martha's parents? Whatever. Whoever had was the Kent farm. So it had to have been Jonathan.
Right.
So he had the coordinates sent to go to Smallville for that specific family to raise his son.
Okay, I got you now.
And that makes a lot more sense.
That does make a lot more sense. That really does.
Slingshot my child into space and hope.
Yeah, why not? Like, hey, adios. Bye. Yep. Very, very bold strategy at the end of the day.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pans out.
I do really recommend right now, because there's only one issue out, that you pick up Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, part of the DC All-In series. That really has some tender moments. There's a moment where Krypto cuddles up next to baby Clark as, Laura and Jor-El are having the conversation. There's some really, really good moments in there. I think if you're looking to get into some Krypto comics, which you might not be picking, like, why would I read about a dog? Because first of all, animals are amazing, better than humans. And secondly, because this is a very good comic book. And so you should pick that up for sure. I'm excited to see Krypto. James Gunn's bringing a lot of things that we haven't seen yet to our screens for the first time. So I'm pretty freaking pumped, man. I really am.
I've now seen it in 4D, which I'm excited for. And
you're going to have bruises.
It takes it away too. I know.
They're going to be like, did your husband beat you? Because you're going to have a black eye. And you're like, no, I saw Superman in 4D.
But I mean, yeah. Well, it's funny when I saw Deadpool and Wolverine in 4D, I saw it for the second time because I had seen it with you already. So when I saw it for the second time with Erica and Tabby, so I got to give them the heads up of hold your beer out. Like I knew when the
hold it
up. So because they should have the cup holders stand still, but they don't.
Yeah.
So honestly, we would literally, you have to hold. You literally have to hold.
You go for a ride. You legitimately do. It is wild. I'm excited.
So the last thing I have to say about the Superman comics is, I've just started reading DC, honestly, in general, in the last few years, and I'm really going through this Superman stack. And one thing I have seen in the comics that I have not seen in the shows or the movies is Superman's never portrayed as unintelligent or stupid, ever. He's never the butt of a joke by any means, but he's never regarded as super intelligent. He's regarded more so with his strength. Whereas in the comics, you have that inner dialogue, and he's constantly doing math and science and figuring things out. Whereas it's almost like when you watch The Flash, and even though Barry's very smart, you have Cisco in his ear. Okay, do this. We're going to do this, and we're going to see this reaction with this. Right. Superman in the comics is doing all of that in his inner dialogue and using all of his skills.
Which I like a lot better.
Yeah, and I feel like we really don't get that. Like, I love the Spider-Man that has the web slingers because it showcases his intelligence. Yeah. As opposed to or not that Tobey Maguire's not intelligent. Well, he's not that intelligent. He would have been able to figure things out a little better on his own if he was more intelligent. But
yeah,
Superman's really smart.
He is. In All-Star Superman, one of the things that they do is the outcome from him with the sun is enhanced, smarts essentially. But he is smart. Oh. He really embodies as well. I think he's an underrated character. And I say underrated because coming from me, I don't care. I've always struggled to get into him because I felt he was too Boy Scouty and overplayed. And I'm like,
Boy Scout. You can look at Batman. Was it Batman Hush?
Yes.
It's like, come on, Boy Scout, save Lois. And that's how they snap him out. But his Boy Scoutness comes into play. It's very important. It can snap him out of a trance.
Right. And he really is the best of us. And he embodies what humans really should be, which is, you should just treat each other with decency at the end of the day. And as I read more of Superman, I do get more into him. And then David Gordon Sweat is obviously getting me really excited for Superman. I never saw this coming. I really didn't, but I'm really glad that this is coming out. And I'm really glad because you're really getting into DC now because as a DC Comics, I've always just loved DC Comics. So seeing you don the Superman and excited for a Superman movie, has me even more pumped.
Grew up with Batman movies, but I feel like the CW Arrowverse, shout out to Tim and to my brother-in-law, Jared. They're the ones that like, you need to watch Arrow and Flash. You need to. And, that spawned this, but I wasn't reading them until this podcast.
You even watched Superman and Lois before I did, which is fun.
But that was CW.
That's what I mean. But normally I'm the one that watches more of these shows than you.
And I watched Smallville, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I think so. And I flew through that shit, man. But okay. So there was some Comic-Con or something, and Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash in CW, is wearing a Superman shirt, and somebody yells, "You're wearing the wrong shirt," and he goes, "No, I'm not."
Oh, I like that.
So if you actually watch any kind of interview with him, he was a huge Superman fan growing up. He is obsessed with Superman, and I think that's so freaking cute and adorable. And
I also have Cisco's autograph from the 2015 MegaCon I attended, funny enough. Speaking of Cisco, because we talked about Mr. Terrific and stuff like that, I do have his autograph. I don't remember where I put it. I have to find it. It was that back when the Arrowverse was still really big.
That panel was full.
It was, oh man, I'm enjoying it. So Superman comes out next week or tomorrow. Sorry, technically tomorrow. If you're getting the Prime screening, it's tomorrow. It comes out this week. Go see it. Formulate your own opinions. And it's not a versus. It's not a Superman versus Fantastic Four. It is, we are living. We are eating no matter what, because
these are going to be two completely different movies.
Exactly. Really, realistically, the more these movies do well. Oh man, he's old and he's bougie. He's a bougie bitch. He's in his 50s, right? I can relate. I'm not in my 50s, but I'm bougie.
Is he in his 50s or is he almost?
Yeah, no, he's in his 50s. I thought he said he was 50 or something like that.
It's weird though. So that makes me happy because it's weird that I'm getting to a point in my life where all the superheroes are starting to be younger than me because I'm used to them all being my age.
Yeah, it is.
Because like Cavill, Evans, Thor, like they're all my age.
But even as like a sports fan, for me, I'm at that age where everyone's retired and you're old. And
although LeBron's my age and he's still playing.
I know that's true. That is true. It's exciting. Go see Superman. Go see Fantastic Four. Go catch a movie. Formulate your own opinions.
David Cornsweet's only 31.
Wow, he's younger than me.
He's 10 years older than my daughter. Jeez.
He's younger than I am now. I guess I'm at that age. go read some comics. Go to your local comic shop, pick up some Superman comics, whether it's Kingdom Come, whether it's All-Star Superman, Death of Superman, Superman Unlimited, Absolute Superman, Birthright, whatever it is, man. Go check it out. Go read. Go visit your local comic book shop. And can't wait.
Book.
We'll be back next week with more exciting content. Patreon.com/HopsGeekNews if you want to support. And as always, on Hops Geek News, any social media platform, all that good stuff. So we'll see you guys next time. Cheers. Truth, justice.